Welcome, my name is Colleen Tauke and I'm the sewing specialist here at Fons and Porter. In this Quilting Quickly tutorial, I'm going to show you how to put together the various pieces for the quilt called Brava. If you'd like to purchase our pattern, please visit our website. The quilt you see behind me, full of wonderful bright color fabrics. And you look at it and you see large stars, at least I do when I look at it. But we're going to be constructing 3 different kinds of components that will be put into this quilt. So let's break it down. This is what you see dominant, jumps out, these big stars. But what we're going to be creating actually are blocks that look like this. A square that's on point with bright colored triangles in the corners. We're going to also create this block out of all kinds of triangles. And then we're going to come out here and do the outer edge, these points that go all the way around the outside to finish out those stars. So what we're going to be working with is all these wonderful bright colors, 5-inch pre-cut squares, and we're giving it a gray linen look kind of a ground as a background to it. So working with all of these, how about working with the rainbow? Isn't that great? We are going to then start with creating blocks that look like this. In order to get to this point, we are going to be working with 2 of the pre-cut squares, and this is a fun part where you can just mix and match all the colors because it's pretty much scrambled up. It's all random. And you're going to put it using the quick square triangle method. You can put 2 of those squares together, and using a tool called a 1/4 inch seam marker that we have, you can then lay that on your square. There's a yellow line that goes down the very center of the tool. That is going to be where, that's the absolute perfect corner to corner. You're going to need to line up. The tool is made so it's a 1/4 inch wider on, off to each side of that center. And you're going to mark stitching lines. And I'm using a friction pen that's disappearing as soon as it hits heat. The ink will disappear, and it's on the back side of my fabric so I don't have to worry about a residue or anything. So I've marked then stitching lines that go across my block. I'll go in and stitch right on that line and slice down the center and have perfect triangle squares once they're pressed open like this, 2-color block. Now I have some already partially assembled here. I've got in rows. I've got the top half here. So I'm going to fold this back, and you can see I've pressed my seam nice and neat to one side. And as you're putting these together, if you've selected a bunch of fabrics and you say, I want to make triangle squares that go into a block like this, you can plan a little bit ahead on your seam allowance, and the seams here go in opposite directions. So the one at the bottom, the seam allowance is going down, seam allowance on the top is going upward. So they'll nest together. It's a little trick that you can pick up along the way to make your blocks go together really smoothly. And this one's already seamed here, so we've got the top portion of this block. So set it side by side. I've done the same thing, putting together 2 blocks. Again, I kind of noted the direction of my seam allowances so they match together perfectly. And that gives me a really good intersection. And then you would just join these blocks together to create this style. So that's the first one. The next block that we need to create, we're going to do those outside corner points. They look like this. And in order to get to this point, it looks like 3 triangles, easy to cut. But we want to keep in mind that this piece, this background piece, that this is a straight of grain. It doesn't have much stretch. Because if we were to cut, say, a square of fabric and cut it diagonally, this would all have a bias, which would be really stretchy. And our outside of our quilt could become really distorted. So in order to cut those, and there's a diagram in the magazine, so you can, if you don't catch it all here, you can see it in the magazine. We're taking a square of fabric, background fabric. We're marking it, I've marked it, but you'll be cutting. I've marked it so you can see. I would cut from corner to corner, both directions, and those would yield the points of the pieces that you see right here. So there's bias edge here and bias edge here. So be very careful with those pieces before you start to piece. And now you've taken some of your square, 5.5 inch squares, and you've cut them in half diagonally. So you're going to be creating the piece like this. And you'll note when you lay these together, you can match up the triangles here, the outer edge. This one's going to hang off. Now as you stitch your 1/4 inch seam along, you will notice that there's a kind of a triangle spare off the end. That's what it's supposed to be like. Then you're going to open it out and you're going to add the second one. Again, come to this outside edge, match up your triangles nice and neat, and 1/4 inch seam and open out. And I'll show you on the back side where this one's stitched. 1/4 inch seam both directions. Make sure you take that time to press your blocks, keeping them nice and neat. You'll have a lot more success in the end. Now, the last piece that we need to create is the block that looks like, we're going to have a whole collection of pieces here. The block that looks like this. Now, there are many ways to make this. You could use a large piece of gray and put on what we call cheater corners and flip out, but that would waste because you would have to trim away that outside corner. So what we've done here is we've got a center piece that's a square of fabric that we're just turning on point. So we're laying it out like this. You're going to take some of those 5-inch squares again, you're going to cut them in half diagonally. Be very gentle with them because all your diagonals are bias edges. But because you're going to match that to a straight of grain, you're going to be stabilizing it very shortly. And you'll notice as you go to put these on that you can't put them all on at once. So what you're going to do is you want to come in and do opposite sides. This is how I set mine up when I sit down to the sewing machine. They're going to hang off by just a 1/4 inch on each end. You're going to have little triangles, but that's fine. When you get done sewing those a 1/4 inch on both sides, flip those out, give it a good press, just gently, don't stretch, and then you're going to come in and add the second 2 sides in the same exact manner and press it out. Now, on the back side, this is what you've got. You can see the little dog-eared little tails hanging off. You can clip those off when you're done. But I wanted you to see that that they do hang off the edge. Okay, now you've created the 3 different blocks that go into the quilt. Now let's see if we can arrange them to look like the quilt behind me. I've made some extra pieces here for outside edges. There are blocks that are solid. As you join things together, we do have solid blocks here and rectangles. And then one on each corner, you have a small square. So we have a small square in the top corner. We have a star point coming in each direction off, kind of as a border. Then we go into the body of the star. You can start to see it develop now. And got a set of star points here. And then you'll have rectangles on the outer edge here that will stretch over to the next set of rows. And you can see the only thing I'm missing is the last of the star points there, so you can kind of see the rows already developing. If you'd like to see more of our Quilting Quickly tutorials, please visit our website. Thanks for joining me today.